Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 9 playthrough of the Chicago Blackhawks. We are about to get the 2023 to 2024 season underway. Pretty low expectations from ownership. We're still in a rebuild, and they just want us in the top 3/4 of the league. But quite honestly, we are looking for more than that. As you can see here, we had 2 first-rounders last year. We went with left defenseman Luke Coughlin and Matteo Rotundi. Neither of them is going to be able to help us for a couple years, but think that they are both very good prospects. We got Coughlin at number 16 and Rotundi at number 20. But we were also very active in the free agent market and the trade market. Signed a new goalie in Mackenzie Blackwood and Dylan Larkin, who we viewed as the top free agent available. And we also made a trade for the aging Victor Arvidsson. I guess he's not really aging. He's only 30, but he's on the final year of his contract. A very good offensive player, which we felt like we needed to bolster our offense. So in addition to those 3 players, we also picked up Ross Colton as a free agent to kind of bolster our offense. And then we made a trade for Filip Hronek to hopefully become a big-time part of our defense for many years to come. That was somewhat expensive trade for us, but not excessively so, in my opinion. We had to give away the pretty good young defenseman Ian Mitchell, who is not quite as good as Hronek, but was still a pretty regular starter for us last year. In addition to that, if I could pull Mr. Hronek back up here and look at his bio properly. We also traded away the rights to Kurashev and then a 5th-round pick and a 7th-round pick. So it wasn't cheap, but in my opinion, it wasn't exceedingly expensive. And we did get Hronek signed, as you can see, to a 3-year, $6.6 million extension. So we're going to have him through his late 20s at this point and think that hopefully he can be a defenseman that we can build around. So with all of those additions that we talked about, new goalie, another pretty good defenseman, left winger, an excellent center, and an offensive-minded right winger, and the fact that we are going to have Bo Horvat, who we traded for right at the trade deadline last year and then signed to an extension for the full season. Even though ownership only wants us to be in the top 3/4 of the league, just showing minor improvement, we've got higher expectations. I feel like the Blackhawks this year should be a playoff team. We barely missed the playoffs last season, even though we were really trying more to ignite this rebuild with good draft position, which we didn't really end up getting, picking 16th and 20th. 16th was our pick, so we were the first team out of the playoffs last year, and 20th was the pick that we got from the Lightning. So I think we turned those into good players, as I just talked about, but didn't really get a Connor Bedard or some type of franchise-altering talent at the top of the draft, which we thought we might be in play for when last season was getting underway. So given the success we had on the ice last year, and the number of significant additions we've made to this team over the last few months, I'm putting it out there. We should be a playoff team, and we're going to get the season underway this evening against Colorado. And the new season got underway with a good start, 4-3 victory, and our new addition, Dylan Larkin, with 2 goals and 1 assist in his debut. So things can't be going any better for the Blackhawks. We did expand the United Center a bit, and at least for the first game of the season, we had a sellout. So hopefully that'll help us financially with over 1,000 extra seats that we put in over the past off season. And a real good start for the Blackhawks with a 3-0 record, but we did lose one of our new additions, Ross Colton, to a broken pelvis for 2 to 3 months. So clearly not optimal to have him on the IL, but clearly that is where he needs to go with that type of injury. And we've made it to the end of October. Things gone about as good as could be hoped for this rebuilding Blackhawks team. 6-3 record, 12 points. So taking a look at the standings, we are in a three-way tie in the Central Division. So if the season were to have ended today, we would definitely be a playoff team. You can see the veteran Kane and our new addition Larkin, two of the top scorers in the league, and Hronek with 10 saves through 9 games, so he's off to a nice start also. Speaking of players off to nice starts, Connor Bedard has a 8-game assist streak. The 18-year-old rookie with the Islanders has 11 assists in his first 10 games after being the number 1 selection in the draft earlier this summer. We just suffered a brutal 7-3 loss to Winnipeg. Patrick Kane did extend his point streak to 12 with an assist, so he continues to have a nice year. But Kara's got a partially torn labrum, going to be out for 2 to 3 months. They'll allow us to delay treatment, but honestly, we are only 12 games into the season. Don't want to risk exacerbating things and losing him for the whole year, so we are going to not delay treatment, and we will put him onto the injured list. That'll require us to bring up another player from our relatively weak options we have down in AHL. When we did put Colton on the injured list several weeks ago, we brought up the youngster Cole Gottman from the AHL. You can see he's only played in 2 games for us. He's kind of the last forward off the bench at this point. So the only positive thing is that with the loss of Kara, probably a little more playing time for Gottman. But you can see we are at the point now where it would definitely be optimal if we could find a decent left wing to bring up. And we thought about bringing up the youngster Lucas Reichel, who's off to a good start in Rockford with 5 goals and 6 assists in 11 games. You look at his ratings, though, and he's probably not quite ready. So we're going to bring up another youngster, Michael Tepli, who is also off to a great start with 8 goals in his first 9 games. Looks like he may be a little more ready to contribute at this point. We are also going to make another move with one of our young players, Colton Dock, high draft pick not that too long ago. Just to be conservative, we started him down in the ECHL, and you can see he scored 12 points in his first 7 games there. So we are going to promote him to Rockford, and he is definitely a player that could be helping us in the not too distant future at the NHL level. And we did get a win yesterday against the first place Penguins, which was really positive. Bad news is that Caleb Jones has a fractured ankle and he's out indefinitely. We can try to delay treatment until the season is over. I just don't think that's a wise move. That's a pretty serious injury for someone who's got to be skating for 20 plus minutes a game at the NHL level. So it probably means he's gone for the year, but be interested in the comments down below for those of you who are playing, how often you take advantage of the delayed treatments. I've never done it yet, probably being overly conservative and just trying to keep players healthy for the long term. Clearly, if it was mid-April and we were beginning a potential push towards a playoff run and maybe even a Stanley Cup, I'd have a different take on some of these injuries that we've talked about. But at this point in mid-November, to me, it doesn't make sense to do something that could cause longer-term issues, and then he'll get through this season, and then he'll have an indefinite recovery ahead of him. He's probably done for the year, unfortunately, which doesn't help our defense, but I think it's the right decision for a 26-year-old that we already have signed for another 3 years. If he was in the last year of his contract and we weren't planning on bringing him back, then I hate to say it because it kind of makes me a bad person, but I probably would have a player try to play through something like that. Interesting trade today in the league. The Rangers and the Kings. The Rangers sending Capo Caco, whose career hasn't taken off the way that I'm sure the Rangers had hoped, for a second-round pick in the upcoming draft next summer for the former top prospect. So probably a decent addition for the Kings, but kind of scary how quickly the Rangers gave up on him. And we've made it to the month of December. Weren't as successful in the month of November as we were in October. Still a 12-8-1 record and 25 points. If the season were to end today, we would have the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. So from that perspective, things are going okay. Did think about trying to supplement ourselves, given that we're missing a couple of forwards, and now Jones, whose fractured ankle now has 3 to 4 months on it, so he should actually be back this year on the IL. And we actually looked to see whether our old friend was still available, and he actually is. Taves is still by far the best player who's available as free agents. The issue is he's looking for about $7.5 million a year still, so that's a little rich for us. Would obviously love to bring him back if at all possible. And we're at a point now where we do have the money to fit him on for the short term. But $7 million is just way too much for what he is at this point, even though he would likely be a nice addition to the locker room. Speaking of the locker room, we'll check in on our team harmony. Still very good. 4 leaders on the team, only 1 disruptive player, and Alex Formenton, so things going well from that perspective. And looking at job security, our goal is to be in the top 3/4 of the league. As we talked about at the beginning of the episode, our goal is to make the playoffs this year, and right now we're on pace to do it, so can't complain about the way this season is going, even if we haven't been playing quite as well in the month of November as we did to start off the year in October. And according to the news, the Hurricanes, for some reason, are looking to move on from Sebastian Aho. Can't imagine that we are possibly going to be able to swing him, but certainly worth checking in as to what type of crazy offer we might need to make to potentially bring him on board. And not really much for us to do, unfortunately. If we tried to send the youngster Cole Gutman, as well as all 4 of the first-round draft picks that we have over the next 3 seasons, our scout's appraisal is that he doesn't think they will accept that. So as much as we'd love to bring him on board, the price seems extremely steep. And the living legend Patrick Kane just had a monster game in a 7-1 win against the Sabres. 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points. Kane having a really nice season for us this year, 14 goals and 22 assists through his first 25 games. So the 35-year-old still seems to have it and seems to be a bit rejuvenated with some of the younger talent and the higher quality talent that we've surrounded around him this year. And just for the heck of it, we're going to take a look at the trade block here. You can see there's some very expensive players who are available, some of whom have extremely long tenures of their contract ahead of them too. If we could add a good defenseman for not that much, would certainly think about it. And obviously, if we can add someone who can put the puck in the net, that's always an important skill to have. Season's still going pretty well here through mid-December. You can see we're fourth in the Central, but with 33 points would be a playoff team. Wild card if the season were to end today. 16-10-1 record. Blackwood up there in wins. You can see he's been a real good addition for us. 14-8 record, 1 shutout, 2.65 goals against, and a .919 save percentage. So certainly having him in front of the net has been a nice asset in the good start that the Blackhawks have had so far this season. And some good news from the IL is Ross Colton ready to return to practice. Our new left wing only played in 3 games, didn't do very much before he suffered that injury, so hopefully we'll have him back in early January. Season going well, a 20-11-1 record. Blackhawks have been playing even better more recently, which is positive. Taking a look at the standings, you can see we're tied for second in the Central Division. Clearly would be in the playoffs if the season were to end today. You can see that Kane is up there with 25 goals and 21 assists. That's not Kane, that's Svechinov. I didn't think he had that many goals. Kane with 16 goals and 29 assists, so his 45 points and his 29 assists both on the leaderboard. And Blackwood with his 18 wins has been one of the more successful goalies thus far in the mid stages of the season at this point. And another monster night for the captain, 3 goals and assist and a 6-5 win over the Jets. So as we head towards Christmas, the Blackhawks are playing extremely well here in the 2023 to 2024 season. And the Blackhawks have been up and down over the past couple of weeks, but still finished off 2023 yesterday with a 5-0 win over Detroit on New Year's Eve. You can see Arvidsson, an excellent game, 3 goals and assists for Menton with a goal and an assist, and then Dickinson with the 3rd star. Surprised the goalie didn't get some love with a performance like that, although Detroit did only have 16 shots on goal, so that's probably part of the reason. Still a shutout, though. Top-selling Blackhawks jerseys, the captain, the new additions Horvat and Larkin, and then the goalies Blackwood and Stolars. Top-selling jerseys for the month, the captain in the top 10 and Bo Horvat in the top 15. So the Blackhawks remain a pretty popular team. Looking at development, a lot of the younger players that we have under contract, or more accurately have the rights to, doing well. And you can see some of the young players up on the big squad, Entwistle, Radish, Regula, showing some improvement over the last month as well. The aging goalies, one of whom is in the AHL, the only ones kind of moving in the wrong direction at this point. Taking a look at our attendance, even with the increased capacity, we've still sold out every game this year, 18 home sellouts, so the Blackhawks remain a very difficult ticket to find. Hopefully that's helping us with the financial situation. We've actually cut down on promotions as we've continued to sell out to just save as many points as we possibly can. We continue to invest pretty decently in team morale and scouting as we want to make sure that the players are happy as we're trying to get into the playoffs this year, and also want to make sure that we know a lot about all of the prospects out there, whether it's a youngster that we might be drafting or someone that we'll be looking to trade for in the coming weeks, or potentially pick up as a free agent next year. In taking a look at the key standings, you can see we're 22-13-1 here, closing in on the midway point for the season. 45 points has us in the final wild card spot, but clearly in the playoffs. You can see Kane with 21 goals, 30 assists, and 51 points is all over the league leader charts, and Blackwood continues to have a really nice debut season since we picked him up. Done really well this year, 19-11-2 record, 284 goals against, 912 save percentage. So a nice debut from Blackwood so far. We'll take a look at a few of the stats for the broader team. Obviously, we know that Kane is the big scorer for us so far, but sorting by points, you can see the addition of Larkin has been a good one also. Really happy to have him on board as a free agent. 17 goals and 27 assists through his first 35 games. And it's actually kind of crazy. You know, the captain is our leading scorer, and then three of our new additions, Larkin, the defenseman Hronek, who's got 25 assists, and then the right wing Arvidsson with 19 goals and 10 assists are our second, third, and fourth highest scorers. Then we get into some of the more familiar players, Radish and Fermenton, who were both with us last year. Horvat, honestly, is a little disappointing at this point. He has kind of moved from the first line down to the second line with Larkin on board, so that's probably a little bit of it. I'm guessing he's got a little less ice time this year. Yeah, but not too much, Actually, he's got more ice time this year, surprisingly. With us, at least, he's getting another 18 seconds a game. But hopefully he'll be more productive the second half of the year. Hasn't been all that great yet. Dickinson, McCabe, Anderson, Dolan, and Hardman and Whistle with 11 points or more. Tepli, since he's come up, has been somewhat productive. A lot of variation in our plus minuses, as you can see. Patrick Kane, Connor Murphy, and Jake McCabe, along with Larkin and Radish, the best in that metric. But we've got some people that have not been good. We've started giving a little less playing time to Dennis Chalowski recently, simply because of that brutal plus minus. May need to kind of think about the same thing with Mackenzie Entwistle. And then Seth Jones, a very disappointing year. This is a guy that we are going to need to move on from at some point, simply because he's got a very long and expensive contract, and although he's a good player, I don't view him as being a great player, given that we are very low on defensemen right now with the youngsters Regula, Chalowski, and Rose up for us. Probably not the time to trade him right now, but if we found somebody real interesting on the trade market that was just as good, and we were able to kind of dump Jones in return, would definitely consider doing that, but not at the top of our list at this point, given that we are definitely weak on the blue line at this point. But it's been a really good year so far. I'll check in quickly on Team Harmony. Hopefully it's still good. Yep, no big changes on that front. Job security remains excellent at this point, so things are going really well for the Blackhawks. Taking a look at the injury situation, should be getting close to having Colton back. Yep, he's day-to-day at this point. Kara still going to be out until probably late February, early March, and then probably just before the playoffs when we'll have a chance of getting Caleb Jones back from that fractured ankle. But had the opportunity, as we talked about earlier, to delay treatment on a few of these guys, given that we're 22-13-1 and they're kind of all healing up naturally. I think it was the right thing to let them just get proper treatment and not try to push things. You can see, as I mentioned, right now we would be the second wild card, but 5 points clear in the playoff race of the Oilers and the Kings, although the Oilers have 2 games in hand on us, so they could actually they could actually close the gap on us and make things a little more interesting. We've got a game in hand on the Kings, so that's helpful. But as I talked about, expectation and the goal is absolutely to make the playoffs. So when we come back in our next episode to kick off the month of January, hopefully we can keep playing well above 500 hockey and get these Blackhawks back into the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we'll find out how that quest goes in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.